Hi, I'm Jake. I make RPG supplements and videos about Pathfinder 2, or PF2, and this is Loot, and that's Puff Butt. Gassed. I love PF2, and I'm excitedly awaiting for my Divine Mysteries book, but it's a little late, so I'm going to put out a couple of other videos that are about War of Immortals that I haven't gotten to yet, like The Eternal Legend. And I'm also going to cover something I forgot to cover. I didn't actually forget, but I was scrolling up and down while reading the book, and I skipped over Caretaker's Calling for some reason on my previous Mythic Callings video. So I'm going to read that one first. Caretaker's Calling. It's such a popular one, too. Like, I shouldn't have missed it. It has the traits Uncommon, Calling, and Mythic. You have a deep-seated drive or divine directive to care for others, and your power might one day grow to allow you to heal an unimaginable wound. When you treat disease, treat poison, treat wounds, or use battle medicine, you can spend a Mythic point to attempt to check at Mythic proficiency. Obviously, that's awesome! And hair everywhere. The first time each day that you critically succeed on a check to treat wounds, you regain a Mythic point. As I've mentioned before in the other callings, for the callings themselves, I don't really see that it needs a Mythic point, because, like, you're just going to keep doing it anyway. And you're getting 3 per day, and you can get more throughout the day. Anyway, I'm testing it out first with the Mythic points to see how it works. And then in the live stream, we're going to go without the Mythic points to see how the change is. So for Caretaker's Calling edicts, give aid to others, heal those who are wounded regardless of where they come from, anathema, deny care to the disadvantaged, refuse to heal the wounds of an enemy who has surrendered. Completely understandable edicts and anathema for a healer. Now let's go to the Eternal Legend. The Eternal Legend has a really big intro, all of the Mythic Destinies do. I'm not going to read it, because I want to spend all the time just talking about the abilities and what it does for you. And yes, there are myths and legends that go along with having a super powered, majestic, godlike force on the battlefield. The Eternal Legend combines a lot of different ideas. It feels like a monk to me, but there are a couple of abilities here that if you take it and you're a monk, you're not gaining some of the benefit. So the thing that bothers me about Eternal Legend overall is that it's the only solely martial combat focused Mythic Destiny. There are a couple of others that involve a mount or a pet that you could also be martial. But besides that, there's casters or like the face of the party. So this is the one that is for hand-to-hand combatants or even ranged combatants that don't have a pet and don't cast spells and don't have a focus on their face abilities like diplomacy. And it's just not enough options. All right, so dedication. Eternal Legend dedication. Level 12 feet, obviously. And all of these have the Destiny and Mythic traits, and this is also uncommon. As your renown as a fighter grows, your calling comes to fruition. Almost nothing can keep you down. During your daily preparations, choose Clumsy, Drained, or Enfeebled. For the remainder of the day, when you roll a success against an effect that would impose that condition on you, you get a critical success instead. Awesome, right? In addition, anytime you gain the chosen condition, reduce its value by 1. You can change the chosen condition with a single action that has the Concentrate trait. That helps anybody who isn't a caster. Actually, the Drained would also help a caster. So that's just a really good, all-round, useful archetype feat. I know it's a Mythic Destiny feat, but it's still an archetype, basically. Next feat, level 14, Demolishing Knockback. 1 action, Flourish. Prerequisites, Eternal Legend dedication, obviously. You make a forceful attack that has the power to push your foe through walls. Spend a Mythic point and make a strike at Mythic proficiency. If you hit and deal damage to the target, you push them up to 15 feet away from you. If this movement would cause the target to collide with an object that has a hardness of 5 or less, the object breaks, and the target is pushed through the object space for the remainder of the forced movement, taking an additional 2d6 bludgeoning damage. The GM can decide that this is a different type of damage depending on the object the target was pushed through. For instance, slashing damage if the target is pushed through a pane of glass. This should already be in the game. Like, if you push somebody into a chair, they fall over the chair, they break the chair, they take more damage. If the forced movement doesn't cause the target to collide with an object, the target must succeed at a reflex saving throw against your class DC or be knocked prone at the end of the movement. Obviously, it's a really good ability. It pushes them really far away from you, so it makes them spend actions to get up to you again. Possibly provoking a reactive strike if you have a reach weapon. But like I said, it should already exist. Like, if you throw people through glass, that hurts. Maybe it's not 2d6, maybe it's a d4. But this should already be there. Anyway, so obviously it's a good ability. Next feat, level 14, Earth to Heaven Strike. 2 actions. Your blows hamper both a foe's mobility and cognitive functions by focusing first on their lower extremities and then their head. Make a strike. If you hit and deal damage, the creature's also clumsy 1 until the end of your next turn. Then make another strike against the same creature. If that strike hits and deals damage, the creature is also stupefied 1 until the end of your next turn. If both strikes hit and deal damage, the duration of both conditions increases to 1 minute. Each strike counts towards your multiple attack penalty, but you don't increase the multiple attack penalty until after you've made both strikes. So this sounds like martial arts, right? Yeah. That seems like what this Eternal Warrior is based around. Like, martial arts fighting, although, like, Jackie Chan did come into my mind about, like, falling on items and breaking them and taking more damage, but so did a basic bar fight. Like, Indiana Jones came to mind. That's just a function that just should happen. So I like this one. Obviously, it's useful. It could make somebody clumsy and stupefied for a minute. So far, none of this seems super magical mythic powered. Like, the Godling, as soon as you get it, you, like, pick somebody to bless. This is just, I learned new maneuvers. It just doesn't feel mythic. Next feat, level 14, Faultless Defense. It's a reaction. Trigger, you would take damage from a strike made by a creature. As you are struck, your steely determination reminds those who fight you that they are destined to be no more than footnotes in your tale. Spend a mythic point to gain resistance equal to half your level to the triggering damage, and then attempt to strike at mythic proficiency against the creature that attacked you. If the strike hits and deals damage, the creature is also slowed 1. That's amazing. If it hits at all and deals any damage, they're slowed. That's almost bullshit. That feels mythic, because, like, somebody hit you, you gain resistance from it, sort of like deflect their motion and use their momentum to, like, push them off of you or make them hindered in some way. Again, it feels like martial arts. It's a very monkey destiny. Next feat, level 14, Immovable Object. 1 action, it's a stance. Prerequisites, the dedication plus master in fortitude or reflex saves. You plant your feet in a wide stance, resisting all movement not of your own volition. While in this stance and on the ground, you are immune to forced movement, and if an effect would knock you prone, you aren't knocked prone and can step as a free action. Great, cool. Just flat out makes you immune to something. That's really rare to see. Yes, it's powerful. I guess it feels sort of... It feels magical, I guess. I wouldn't call it mythical, but it feels magical. And again, it feels sort of like martial arts. Like, I like this. This is a good mythic destiny. It's useful. It doesn't feel particularly, like, majestic or beyond powerful of just, like, taking a martial arts archetype. Like, all of the other ones seem to. I'm becoming a devil of my own domain, or you can't push me. Yeah. Next feat, level 14, Scattering Shout. 3 actions. With a flex of your mighty thews and a guttural bellow that can make ears bleed, you drive back any enemies surrounding you. Each enemy within a 10-foot emanation must attempt a fortitude saving throw against your class DC. Critical success, they're unaffected, obviously, like usual. Success, they're pushed 5 feet away. Failure, the creature's pushed 10 feet away from you and takes 8d6 sonic damage. This is every enemy within 10 feet. Critical failure, the creature's pushed 15 feet away from you and takes 16d6 sonic damage. There's no freaking limit on how often you can use this, and it doesn't take a mythic point. You can just every round roar, and that's all you do. That's great and fun, and doesn't really fit the rest of the destiny, because you're just pushing people away from you instead of, like, beating the crap out of them with your fists. Whatever. Sure, it doesn't fit, but that's why there are so many different 14th level feats in the Mythic Destinies. Like, all of them have multiple choices at 14th level, so that you can choose your flavor, and that is important. I'm really glad that they did that. I do like Scattering Shout. It's powerful. It's almost bullshit, because you can do it every round. Next, especially if you have friends like pushing people toward you, so you can do this with lots of enemies around you every round. Anyway, this is the feat that so many people talk about online. 16th level feat, Death from Above. 2 actions. Requirements: you are adjacent to a climbable surface at least 10 feet tall. Seemingly to defy gravity, you use a nearby vertical surface to propel yourself upward and then strike downward like the driving rain. Stride up to half your speed upward on the required surface. If you have a climb speed, you may use your full climb speed instead. The surface does not need to span the full height of your stride. You can then either make a ranged strike at a target within your weapon's first range increment and land in the space you began, or an adjacent space without taking fall damage. I love the way that's worded, because you climb up real quick, stop at the top of your climb, shoot, and then fall. You like hop up into the corner and fire. Neat. Especially if you have a ranged weapon that pushes people back, knockback. That'd be great. Where the fuck am I? Oh, right. Or you can land in a space adjacent to a creature within 10 feet of the required surface without taking fall damage. So you just climb up the wall and jump off of it and like land on the other side of them. And make a melee strike against that creature. Either strike deals an extra 2 dice of weapon damage. In addition, the target dealt damage by your strike must succeed at a Fortitude saving throw against your class DC or become stunned 1. That is awesome. Unless you're a monk, because you stun people anyway with the same kind of check. So this doesn't actually help monks. Even though it really just screams martial arts. It also seems magical. I mean, that definitely seems mythical. That's not a thing people can do. You just can't. But you can in movies. I like how much of this book is like, that's what people like watching in action movies anyway. Just, we let the players do it now. Not a bad idea. Next feat, level 16. So that one was level 16. So it's either that or this one or the next one or the next one. Leaping Hedgehog Strike. 2 actions, level 16. You pounce toward an enemy and then barrel them over with 1 fluid movement. You know, like a hedgehog. Ending this maneuver with an attack that may catch them off balance. Leap horizontally toward an enemy you can see. Treat your speed as 30 feet or more for this leap if it is less than 30 feet. If you end this movement adjacent to that enemy, attempt an acrobatics check to tumble through that enemy's space. On a success, the target is also knocked prone. You then strike that same enemy. If the target has been knocked prone, you can spend 1 mythic point as part of the strike to make it at mythic proficiency. I'm sorry, the only thing that comes to mind is Sonic the Hedgehog. Because you like rev up and run into them, knock them over, and then like jump on them or, you know, smack them. Totally just fun. And yeah, that also seems mythical and magical. Next feat, level 16, Pierce the Eye. 2 actions. Requirements: you are wielding a ranged weapon. You aim a shot from your weapon directly at a foe's eye, blinding them in the process. Make a ranged strike. On a hit, the target additionally takes 2d8 persistent bleed damage. The target must also attempt a Fortitude save against your class DC with the following effects. Critical success, the target is unaffected. Success, the target is blinded until the end of its next turn. Okay, that's good for defense. Failure, the target is blinded for as long as they are taking the persistent bleed damage and for 1 additional round thereafter. That's neat. Critical failure, as failure, but the target also takes a -2 circumstance penalty to the flat check to remove the persistent bleed damage. A creature administering first aid to stop this persistent bleed damage takes a -2 circumstance penalty to their medicine check. You're still not blinding them. Like, this isn't... I would think the critical failure should be, like, permanent until you're fully healed. I've seen another ability that works that way recently. And that makes sense to me because, like, you're magically restoring your health, your eye could come back too. But this is just, like, they could still, the very next round, the next time they take an action, roll a success on that persistent check and then get their vision back around after that. So it's not actually piercing their eyes. I just hate that in this system. Why not make the critical failure that they're blinded until they fully restore their hit points? If it exists in the system already, why not use it there? Obviously, it is still a mechanically useful ability. Don't misunderstand me. It's a good feat. Either way you rule it. It's just not blinding someone. Or rather, it's not removing their eyes, or poking out their eyes. Next feat, level 16, Terrifying Mien. Prerequisites, the dedication plus master in intimidation. Whether they have heard of your legend or seen your prowess on the field of battle, those already quaking in their boots grow weak when forced to stand against you. You gain resistance against bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage against strikes made by creatures with the frightened condition. Hell yes! This resistance is equal to 4 times the value of that creature's frightened condition. When this resistance applies to at least one of the creature's strikes during their turn, that creature doesn't reduce the value of their frightened condition at the end of their turn. Fucking amazing. This Mythic Destiny is starting to feel epic. As in, above 20th level. That is extremely useful functionally, but also amazing in roleplay. They're just so scared that they can't injure you. Let's see what else is an option at level 16. Weft and Warp, 3 actions, level 16. With graceful poise, you perform a dance of dangerous attacks. Stride up to half your speed toward an enemy. If you end this movement adjacent to them, make a melee strike against that foe. If you hit, you can reposition the target into your square at the same time that you step into their square. You then make another strike against the same target who is off guard to the attack. Finally, you can step away from that enemy. This is totally a dance, and I can see a whirling dervish of motion on the battlefield. This fits the idea of one of the characters in my group, Morg. Your Tolo. That fits. It's a very cool feat. I love that you have multiple options at each level, and yeah, if you're using mythic feats, then you could spend your class feat and a mythic feat on this, or, archetype, however you want to phrase it. So you could take 2 of these at once. Obviously, you're not going to take Weft and Warp and Pierce the Eye, but you could still take Terrifying Mien and Weft and Warp. That's awesome. You do get to feel pretty bullshit and powerful with the Mythic Destinies, and I like that a lot. I guess I just wish the dedication on this one was more grandiose, more powerful. Yes, it is useful. It keeps you from getting conditions if you would have gotten those conditions. But that's all it does. And it's only 3 conditions. Meh. Alright, next feat, level 18. Exaltation Overwhelming. 3 actions. It has the traits Emotion, Fear, Mental, Visual. Frequency once per day. Raising your weapon or fist aloft, you begin to gleam with dazzling radiance. Just 'cause. You fulminate with power and glory. Doesn't that mean explode? Alright. Making it clear to all who see you that your legend is real and possibly even greater than purported. Spend a mythic point. All enemies who can see you must succeed at a will saving throw against your class DC or become frightened 3, frightened 4, and a critical failure. You and any ally who can see you may choose to strike or stride as a free action. Any of these strikes are made at mythic proficiency. That is amazing. And it has a lot of synergy with Terrifying Mien. That's a beautiful feat. That's super dramatic. Yeah, take that one. That's good. Next level 18 feat, Legend of Combat. 1 action. You can deliver a lightning-fast series of blows and strikes, bringing all the strength of your legend to bear against those who have yet to experience your prowess. Spend a mythic point. For the next minute, you gain an extra reaction at the start of each of your turns. You also gain the Speed of Arms reaction. Speed of Arms reaction. Mythic trait. Trigger. Your turn begins. Effect. You make a strike against one opponent within your reach or stride directly towards an opponent. If this is the first time you've struck that opponent during this encounter, the strike is made at mythic proficiency. Ooh, that's neat. That is really powerful. It's only amazing if you have the mythic point to spend. But then it lasts for the whole combat, and that's great. I also want to point out that this is useful for anybody who just benefits from having additional reactions that they can make during their turn, like a swashbuckler or a champion or a guardian. You don't have to use speed of arms for the extra reaction. It's just useful to have an extra reaction. Or, I mean, just a fighter can benefit from having more reactive strikes. So that one's amazing, but it does have a high cost. It's the mythic point. I guess that's not really a but. Because, like, if you didn't have the mythic point to spend, whether you did or did not, I personally don't run my players through more than one big fight a day. And so, having this as an ability, even if it doesn't require a mythic point, it's the same difference. You're going to use it once a day. I keep trying to find ways to realistically adjudicate whether or not the mythic points should exist as part of the system, because it just seems like extra things to account for, and the mythic points still aren't as powerful as hero points in some ways. Like, you can't use them on attacks unless you have a special mythic feat to be able to use it on attacks. I guess I just don't like the mythic points. They seem pointless. Alright. Mythic Weapon Specialization. Level 18 feet. Prerequisites, Greater Weapon Specialization. When you fully embrace your calling, your blows hit with incredible force that can fell even the mightiest of creatures. When you make a strike with Mythic Proficiency, your additional damage from Weapon Specialization increases to 12. Is that worth a feat? I don't think that's worth a feat. It's a little bit extra damage if you're striking with Mythic Proficiency. I mean, obviously, if you spec for it, then every little bit helps, sure, but does it really help worth an 18th level feat? Like, Legend of Combat is better than that, the one I just read. I don't like that one. Next feat, level 18, Unstoppable Force. Prerequisites, Immovable Object. That's awesome. While you are in the stance provided by Immovable Object, the one that means you can't be pushed at all, you ignore difficult terrain and greater difficult terrain. Once per 10 minutes, if you dismiss your Immovable Object stance, you can stride as a free action. At the end of that stride, your final footfall causes an explosion of energy. Each creature within a 20-foot emanation takes 14d6 force damage. Basic reflex save against your class DC. Creatures that fail the save are also knocked prone. That is amazingly beautiful. Oh, I love it. I love it. And Immovable Object is also really, really good. So it's totally fine to have that as a prerequisite because it's good. There's nothing wrong with that. Extra movement and damage while you do it. That's really cool. And you also ignore difficult terrain of all kinds. Well, difficult and greater difficult terrain. Next feat, level 20. Fight through Oblivion. Mortal wounds that would kill other warriors are no more than the flutter of butterfly wings to you. When you are reduced to 0 hit points, you aren't knocked unconscious and you don't gain the dying condition. Until the start of your next turn, you become immune to all damage, but you also can't regain hit points in any way except the following. If you strike and damage a foe on this turn, you regain 4d8 plus 30 hit points. Otherwise, your wounded value increases by 1 and you remain immune to damage and healing. This cycle continues until you regain hit points by damaging a foe, or until you reach wounded 4, at which point you lose the wounded condition, fall unconscious, and gain the dying condition. That's amazing. Remember also that mythic characters, when they go to dying 4, they don't die. They instead become doomed 1 and they get back up. This is needlessly powerful and cool. You're immune to all damage. You're immune to all damage. That is the time to run through a wall of fire. Because why not? Anyway, obviously that's amazing. Next feat, level 20. 2 actions, finish their story! ! Though your tale is immortal, your foes aren't afforded such an advantage and mainly serve only to further your legend. Main character syndrome here. When the time is right, you can shepherd a weaker opponent off this mortal coil. Spend a mythic point and make a strike at mythic proficiency against an enemy. This strike counts as 2 attacks for your multiple attack penalty and either kills or damages the target depending on their level, as noted below. After you make this strike, the target becomes temporarily immune to finish their story for 1 hour. 16th level or lower, so you're 20th level at this point. So if the enemy is 16th level or lower, if the strike hits the target dies instantly. Okay. That is fun. It totally is. Instead of having to chew through 240 hit points on a random assassin that popped up. I mean, it also makes you feel really powerful, but it's really useful. 17th level, if the strike hits, the target takes the strike's normal damage plus an additional 3 damage dice. Really? You spent 2 actions to do 3 extra damage dice? That's it? And you had to use it. Mythic point for that? 18th level or higher. If the strike hits the target takes the strike's normal damage plus an additional 2 damage dice. That's not amazing. That's just not a lot of extra damage. Like you could just swing at them again. If you know that they're 4 levels below you or lower, that's a really fun ability. And obviously totally useful. Because you don't roll damage, you just knock one out, knock one out. But that's not a lot of additional damage for a 20th level heroic destiny. Well, mythic destiny. It's just... Yeah. I think I would never pick that. Man! I mean, like, compare that to Fight Through Oblivion at level 20. You just can't fucking die and you heal when you hurt people. Versus just... I deal 2 extra damage dice. Ooh. Alright, maybe this one's amazing. Level 20, Living Epic. You are a living legend, a being who cannot be claimed by death, as death has already passed you. Oh, that's right. They all have one of the things where you're immortal. You are beyond whatever they wish to make you. When you would be killed, you instead disappear. You reappear anywhere where your name is spoken in the next week. Your name must be said in the context of recounting one of your exploits, including your death. If the person speaking your name is a close ally, such as another PC, you return to life with only 1 hit point. However, if a stranger speaks your name, you return to life with full hit points, and you gain a +1 status bonus to attack rolls, perception saving throws, and skill checks for 1 week. If no one speaks your name within a week of your death, your soul enters the River of Souls, and you can be brought back to life using other means. I think at level 20, this is unnecessary because your friends are going to bring you back from the dead unless everyone in your party dies. And then let's hope that you went out in a blaze of glory so people remember it. And then you come back and you're all alone. And then you have to take on a new party of characters with the same players. Like, I don't see the necessity of this. It's just unnecessary. It feels legendary, but how much does it really help? Like, either your players are all going to roll up new characters, or you're going to play the same character that you had before because you want to. You could even work with your GM to, like, have you brought back by some NPC. Not to mention that you could have just previously hired an NPC to resurrect you if you die. I don't think it's necessary. Maybe if they could have made something that was sort of similar to Fight Through Oblivion, but, like, you're now permanently a statue or something, and you can be brought back to life if your soul leaves the statue, but you get to fight on for the rest of that battle with a completely different form. That could be fun. Yeah, it'd be similar to Fight Through Oblivion, but I'm just spitballing here. This is just off the top of my head. I'm sad that I don't love it more, because like everybody wants immortality in real life, but in the game it doesn't really matter much. It feels cool. It feels legendary. Although out of all 3 of the 20th level feats, Fight Through Oblivion. That's got to be it, because you get to finish their story, you get to do a little bit of extra damage, or kill someone in one hit. That's really neat. Living Epic, you get to come back to life if you die. Fight Through Oblivion, you keep fighting longer during that same fight that you would have died in, and you look impressive and amazing the whole time. Like, that's what I would pick. You're immune to damage, and you can heal yourself by hitting people. This is great. Out of there's only 3 options. Fight Through Oblivion is the best. Hands down. Because you get to do something cool in the middle of the fight that was really fucking hard. So as a player, you get to feel awesome. With the Living Epic, the character probably feels pretty awesome at being brought back to life when a story was told about them. But Fight Through Oblivion, you get to feel cool as the player right then, in the fight. All right, obviously that's it. I want more options. I know there are a lot of options here, but like, where are fun, cool options for polearm users or for 2-weapon fighters? And there could be more options for ranged attacks. Like, because there's only one Mythic Destiny that is specifically for a non-pet, non-mount, non-spellcaster, non-face of the party character, there should be more options. Because that's a huge block of people. Still, it has a lot of useful abilities, and some of them feel bullshit and awesome. Tell me what you thought about it. If you're playing a fighter, would you take Eternal Legend? When you could take, like, Godling and get domain powers? And a little helper? Hierophant? Pat your little priest on the head? Give him spells? Thank you for joining me. And if you are a patron, thank you for joining me every day and caring for this channel. I'm grateful for your support and your help. So for patrons, that's patrons of $5 or more per month on Patreon, we're doing a giveaway at the end of this month, like we always do, the patron drawing, for a set of ice dice, and it's, I don't know if you can see that, scintillation. It simply scintillates. It's a set of 9 dice, and they're like larger than chess size, and a 45mm snowball. So pretty. I feel like a cat when I look at these. I just keep staring. They're pretty. Just in time for winter. I wish it would snow here. It is too hot in my house. It's like 77 right now. Phoenix. I don't know. If you want to see the rest of the War of Immortals coverage there, if you want to see the live stream stuff, it's Stolen Fate. The last episode was awesome. Because they got to the central hub of the adventure, where they can adventure from. That's all I'm going to say about it. I don't want to spoil anything. It's all based on Harrow. It's fucking fun.